A coalition of 16 states is now suing the Trump administration for trying to divert funds to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. California is leading that lawsuit. It calls the move a, quote, flagrant disregard of fundamental separation of powers principles. It also argues that border states would incur irreparable environmental damages. Joining me now to discuss this from Columbus, Ohio, is Peter Shane. He's a law professor at the Moritz College of Law at Ohio State University. We appreciate you joining us to talk about this. I gave an overview there, but break it down for us. At its core, what are these 16 states arguing here?
Well, the 16 states are arguing, in part, that the national emergency is not an emergency. But the real crux of their argument is that the specific powers that the president wants to use, or he wants the Secretary of Defense to use, to reallocate money to the wall from other projects, that those powers are not given by the statutes that the administration wants to rely on.
Now, typically, though, there's an expectation this will make its way up to the Supreme Court, and it usually rules in favor of the executive branch protecting its powers. Is there any reason why this would not be the case this time around, should it get that far?
Yes, and there are layers to this, but the Supreme Court is probably not going to determine whether declaring a national emergency in and of itself is something beyond the president's power. Declaring a national emergency actually doesn't do anything automatically. It's not like a dollar automatically gets moved or a brick automatically gets laid. What it does is trigger the authority of other departments to do certain things. And those things are described in very specific statutes. The Supreme Court, yes, this particular bench is very hospitable to executive power, but this is also a court that realizes not every president is going to be a conservative president, and they're going to be reluctant, I think, to expand very generously what presidents can do once they utter the words national emergency. So they could, I think even the conservative justices are going to look hard at the specific statutes that California and the other states are invoking and ask whether those statutes really are recipes that Congress has written for moving money to a project like the wall.
So it's really about the money. The president announced this on Friday in the Rose Garden, and there was a moment where he seemed to undercut his case that this is in fact a national emergency. Listen to this.
I want to do it faster. I could do the wall over a longer period of time. I didn't need to do this, but I'd rather do it much faster. And I don't have to do it for the election. I've already done a lot of wall for the election, 2020.
I didn't need to do it, Peter Shane. Do you expect that comment to come back and bite the president?
Well, that comment, and I would say the entire political context surrounding the declaration, are going to be used to basically, set the atmosphere of the case. But I don't think the case will ultimately be decided on that very broad ground. I mean, it's not just the president's statements on Friday that call into question the idea of the emergency. Right now, if you look at the statutes that the White House is using, or that say that they want to use to move money around, 2 of the 3 statutes actually did not require a declaration of a national emergency. It's not clear whether they fit the wall either, but these are statutes that are within the ordinary powers of the Treasury Department or the Defense Department. The only reason why the president had to declare a national emergency is if he wanted to use a specific statute that allows moving money around from one military construction project to another. And actually, that's the statute that will be hardest for him to justify using, just given the words that Congress has written in that statute.
So what do you expect to happen now? Can the president get any construction projects even going, or does this really remain a legal question?
Well, I don't think there's going to be an immediate all-or-nothing resolution to this. Congress appropriated some money that, as I understand it, can at least be used to refurbish or improve existing parts of the wall and other barriers. So I assume that will go ahead. I assume there's going to be a trial or a hearing at which the states will urge a preliminary injunction to stop new wall construction. There are a bunch of preliminary procedural issues that have to be addressed. And of course, even if some wall construction starts somewhere, there will be issues of eminent domain. There will be other lawsuits by private parties, and I think even by communities along the border that are going to argue that just the possibility of a wall is going to hurt property values in their community. It's going to hurt tourism to their community. So this is going to be a river with many tributaries, and they're going to flow at different paces for a long period of time.
Well, in that case, keep your phone close, because we're going to need you to navigate us through those waters in the months ahead. Peter Shane at The Ohio State University, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me.